So here's the deal. I remember being on a missions trip in the Dominican Republic, all right? And so we had like 100 students, no joke. We went down, we had them up. We've been hustling all day. We've been digging some holes. We've been loving on street kids. We were having a ball, and we're like in it to win it. We're like in the barrios, the poorest of the poor. We're literally taking care of the kids of prostitutes and loving on them and caring for them and feeding them, and it was awesome. And one of my buddies came by and said, "Hey, brother, I hadn't seen him. He's a missionary there," and he's like, "Man, I haven't seen you forever. I'm only here for like 24 hours. He was kind of in and out, and he was like, me and you, we got to go grab a bite to eat, and I want to take you somewhere nice, right? And I was like, dude, you don't have to do that. And he's like, come on, man. So I was like, all right, let's go. So we packed up, and me and this guy, we got a little cleaned up, not like nothing super fancy, but again, man, I literally barely had any nice clothes because that's not why we came. So here's the deal, like we get to this, he's taking me to this place, he's telling me about it, and I'm pretty excited about it. They make this thing called paella or something like that, and it's like lobster and just pure goodness with like a little drizzle of crack cocaine. Like it's just awesome, so good, not really, but you know what I'm saying, like so good that I'm like my mouth is watering, you know what I'm saying? So here's the deal, like we get to this place and he pulls up and he's like, oh man, I don't think it's gonna work tonight. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, well, it looks like they're having some kind of special event. And we pull up to this place. As we get there, true story, there's like, everything's roped off, right? And everybody on the inside, there's like lights like this, and there's a stage out front, there's like camera crews everywhere, and it's basically like an outdoor mall. Think of like an outdoor mall. And it's just like packed with people, and everybody's like super fancy, like black suit, and like bow ties, and everybody's like dressed to the nines, and I'm like, oh man, you're killing me, man. You've been playing up this food like I'm so ready to eat. And so he's like, well, maybe we can still get into the restaurant. So we get up to this gate, and it's like, they got like these big old bouncers, Dominican dudes. They're, like massive dudes and huge. And they're like, they're looking at us, and I'm like, I don't think we're getting in, man. I don't think it's happening. Like, that's the gate, that's the door, that's how we get in. And we ain't getting past that brother right there. Like, it's not happening. And so all of a sudden I'm like, but all of a sudden I'm like, my curiosity, I'm like, man, this looks like fun. This looks like a party. And on top of that, I can start to look over, and there's like all these nice tables and seats, and now the food looks on point. And like now I'm even more hungry than I was before he told me you're going to this restaurant. I can see the door of the restaurant on the other side, and I'm just going, man, you're killing me. And there's literally not another place we can go. And as we stood there, we got ready, and I'm like, man, I just want to be on the other side of this gate right now. Like I'm hungry, I'm ready, and all of a sudden, literally, true story, this guy kind of parts the crowd right between the thing. My friend was standing there, and he just, somehow they knew each other. I don't know if it's from like church or like what it was, but this guy that runs all the security detail and knows everybody, he kind of cuts through, and he walks over, and he's like, hey, and we're like, hey. And he's like, hey, you two, this way. And we're like, oh, yes, I go, what's up? So we literally walk up, and, the guy parts the bouncers, and we walk in between. And everybody's speaking Spanish, any Spanish speakers in the room, anywhere? Awesome, see, thank you. Yeah, I knew it was going to get weird. So literally, I don't know what's going on. He speaks Spanish, and so pretty fast, we're being ushered to what I can tell is the head table. And somehow, this guy really wanted us to meet the guy who was hosting this party. And I'm just sitting here going, and I'm watching like the waiters like walking around with like fillets on top of their, and they're like setting them down in front of people, and everybody's starting to eat and everything. And I'm like, no way this is happening right now. So if this is the stage and everything's all lit up and everybody's like super fancy, well, there's like this table right here that's like a little bit raised. And this guy leads us right up to and steps us up, and we're sitting now at the guy who's running the whole thing. I still have no clue what we're at. But he sits us down at this table, and I'm sitting here going, man, we just got through the door. We're about to eat the best meal that I've had. And y'all, when all you've eaten is chicken and rice for like 7 days, and they put a filet in front of you, you're like, come on, man. Like, I'm so excited. And we sit down, and they're speaking in Spanish. I'm like, I don't even care that I don't know what you're saying right now. Like, I'm like in heaven. I'm in heaven. In this whole program, I'm not going to know what you're saying, but it's going to be awesome. And so all of a sudden, this lady comes out, and she stands at the microphone. And she's all looked, and anybody ever flip past the Spanish channels, Spanish-speaking channels? Anybody know what Telemundo is? It's the lady from Telemundo. And I'm like, it's Telemundo. I'm so excited. And they're like, shut up. And I'm like, this is so exciting. I don't know. Like, I know that lady. Like, because I just flipped past. It's like, I'm like, it's the Telemundo chick. And so she's like, I'm like, I don't know what you're saying, but it's awesome. And we're just rolling. And as she's telling and unpacking this story, I'm like, man, this is the best night ever. And then I find out what the event is. So keep in mind, like, I'm on this trip that I've, like, sold with my soul. Like, we're going to go to the ghetto. We're going to love on. And we're going to feed. And I want some of you to, like, give your life for this. And we're, like, pouring out our lives. And now, all of a sudden, the pastor that brought the 100 people down to the hood has made his way to the head table with a piece of filet in front of him. The cameras start turning on. The camera turns on to and starts interviewing the head table guy. This guy right here is like, I can see the TV. I'm like in the shot. I'm on Telemundo. And then all of a sudden, big parade of ladies in bikinis walk out. And y'all, it's the Miss Dominican pageant, and I want to crawl under a table. I'm like, I'm on Telemundo with a filet, and there are ladies in barely any clothes, like 6 feet from me, and I'm just going, please, somebody's parent not be flipping past Telemundo right now. Like, please, no. And like afterwards, they're like coming, and I'm like, I'm just being honest. I'm like, get me out of here. Like, I feel like I just feel so dumb. It's unbelievable. Why do I say that? Because I think that, and I'm gonna go somewhere, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna give you a little bit of my story. I think sometimes the doors that we walk through and the voices that we listen to will get us places that in our hearts we're like, man, I want that. I want to be a part of that. I want to get into that. And I'm just telling you, high school student, that for so many of you, either you still haven't landed at that place, and I don't know what you've experienced. I bet some of you have experienced things that you wish you would have never experienced. I think some of you have had heartache. I think some of the things that have happened in your family, some things that have happened to you. I think some of you have had these moments where you're standing at the door of a party and you're like, man, inside that party, like the reason I'm here tonight is because I'm tired of being alone on a Friday night. I'm tired of being alone on a Saturday night. I'm tired of not being in on the conversation about what was hilarious and who got drunk and what they did. And I'm just telling you, I'm tired of like my buttoned up, locked down rules that I have, or some of you don't even, like me, you grew up, you didn't even have rules. But some of you, you know those doors where you're about to step through, you're about to step through. And you know that there's going to be a lot of voices going, man, I'm so glad you're here. And dude, come on, man, let's go. Let's get. Some of you, it's not a party. Some of you, it's a door to the basement. The door of the basement is like, man, you were just, here's the thing. On the other side, you're seeing some people on the other side, and you're like, man, I'm just tired of not having a boyfriend. I'm tired of not having a girlfriend. I'm tired of not having somebody to like text me and notice what I'm doing different today. And I'm tired of not somebody like doting on me, and for guys like respecting me or like feel like I got a person and somebody. So here's the thing, like some of you know that there's a door that you walked through, and you thought what was on the other side, y'all, you thought it's what you wanted. You so wanted that girl, man, and girls, you so wanted that guy. But fast forward, and some of you, like me, found yourself going, man, how did I get here, man? Because this is what I thought it was going to be. Some of you girls, just be honest. Some of you girls, you dated a boy, and man, he wrecked you, girls. That is not what you expected. Well, some of you should have expected it because he's a bum. But I'm just being honest. Not you fellas, somebody else. Fellas, for you, it's a little bit different. For you, it's a little bit different. For you, it's a lot of times with guys, it's a sports team. For some of you guys, it's a group of guys that you know that you just want to be the boys, you just want to hang out, you want to be in a group, and so you figure out which group is the one that I'm most likely to get into, and as soon as, if I could just be a part of that group, and if I could just hang with that group, and if I could do what that group's doing, then here's the thing, man, I need my boys, I need some boys. And so you have hung your hat on the door of a gymnasium, and what a coach is going to say about you, and how good you are, and how much playing time you get, and what your future options are, and whether there are people in the stands to cheer you on. And I'm just telling you, so many of you have walked through that door, and you've wanted what was on the other side, but you get there. Some of you already know this. And there's a vacuum in your soul. And you're like, man, my whole life is like sports. And no matter how good I do, man, I don't ever feel like I measure up. And so I'm just telling you, man, you know, some of you, there are doors that got closed, and they've broken your heart. You love some boy, you love some girl, you wanted to get into some group, they slammed the door, they hurt your feelings, they stabbed you in the back, you didn't make the team, your parents didn't do this, something didn't happen there, and it was a door that you wanted to open, you wanted your parents to stay together, there's something that you wanted, and you just want, if I could just have this door open, then everything would change. But you got on the other side of the door and it didn't change. Or maybe the door just got closed. And some doors for you guys, I'm just being honest, some doors didn't take you where you thought. So Jesus has something to say about that. And I just want to share it with you because here's what I found out just with my life. Not every door is taking you where you want to go. And listen, not every voice, and a lot of y'all have already figured this out, not every voice you can trust. So Jesus talks about, he's saying here, and it's kind of hard for me, I don't really have time. I wish I had time to go back into John chapter 9. In John chapter 9, there's a story of a blind guy. It's a blind guy that nobody notices. It says he's blind since birth, and when you've been blind since birth, your life is so radically different than everybody else's. You've never seen. You've never gone for a run. There's a lot of things that you've never done. You've never beheld beauty. So in that moment, Jesus runs into him in John chapter 9, and Jesus walks up to him, and Jesus, this is who Jesus is. Jesus just has compassion on him because he just says, you know, Malachi says that the Savior will come with healing in his wings. Just there's something about Jesus. He couldn't see people and not heal them and not help them because it's just a part of his nature to do it. So he sees this guy. He can't get his eyes off this guy, and he's like, man, I got to do something. And so he walks over to the guy, and you know the story, and it's kind of weird. He like spits in the mud. Y'all remember this? And I'm like, we're spitting? Cool. It's Jesus. Do whatever you want, man. So he spits in the mud, and he takes it, and he rubs it on his eyes. And he says, here's what I want you to do. The guy's like, who are you? Doesn't matter. Would you just wipe in my eyes? Doesn't matter. Everybody's like, he totally just, anyways. Jesus says, what I need you to do is I need you to walk down, which means have somebody lead you down to the pool of Siloam, and I just need you to wash your eyes. He's like, but why? Jesus is like, just trust me. So he walks down, and he washes his eyes, and he can see. In John chapter 9, he comes back, and here's a guy that's been blind since birth. But hasn't ever seen anything in his life. Now, everybody, like his parents, he's a grown man. Anybody think his parents knew that he was blind? Brother's blind. Do you think his neighbors knew that he was blind? Brother's blind. Now the brother can see. And all of a sudden, he can see, but everybody's got a real problem with that because they're like, well, and John chapter 9 is like some of your friend groups, just drama. Just drama. And fighting about stuff that's not even a thing. Like they can't just be happy that the guy was blind and now he can see. Now they're just trying to figure out a way to trap, and they're scared, and the parents they're like, well, what happened? The parents are like, I'm not saying it because that's going to start a fight, and I don't, you know. But in the middle of this, Jesus just says, listen. Finds the guy, says, listen. I need you to hear something, dude. I need you to hear that there are a lot of voices around you right now. And he starts this parable. He says, it's kind of like this, man. It's kind of like sheep and shepherds. So sheep, I don't want to get too weird. How many of you have ever been around a sheep? Anybody? Have you really? That's so weird. Like petting zoo? Who like has a sheep? Really? Wow. Okay, I like it. So come to find out, y'all know that sheep are what? They're dumb. Did you know, I still don't have time for this. Did you know that if you leave them in a grassy field by themselves, that they'll die? Did you know that? They'll literally like eat all the grass under their feet until it's gone, and then they'll start eating each other's poo. What? True story. And they won't go for a walk to realize there's more grass. Like, they're not smart. Not the point of the parable. You just need to know it. So in the parable, Jesus says it like this. Well, it's people are kind of like sheep. Now, don't hear him calling you dumb. I don't think that's the point. They are. I just don't think that's the point. The point is the shepherd. He says, listen, it's like all of you people, you're like sheep. Don't hear that like you're one in a million. No, because he leaves the 99 to go after the one. Don't do that with him. That might be how other people see you. That's not how he sees you. So it's in the middle of this, he says it's kind of like sheep and shepherds. He says, listen, there's not every shepherd is the same. Not every voice can you trust. So you heard it when Nate was reading through the list. He said, first off, you're gonna have some thieves and some robbers. And you're like, is there like a big market for stealing sheep? Maybe there is. But tell me more. Like, what do you like thieves and robbers? What does a thief and a robber do with a sheep? Well, there's only two things you can take from a sheep, right? They're not carrying any bling. Like you can't really rob them. They don't have anything. But what can you take from them? And? Sucker, I'm so sorry. Lamb chops. So real easy. So a thief and a robber would take a sheep. They would steal a sheep for unless you got something. Sheep people, correct me later. Wool. So put it this way. You know a thief and a robber because you know what they want to do with people like you? They want to use you to make them look good. There's something about you that they'll use as a commodity to make sure that they look good. They'll use you as a friend group. They'll use you as a trophy. They'll use you as somebody that can laugh at their jokes. They'll make sure that they have enough people around so that they don't. So I know this is crazy, and this is nobody in your life. But there are people who have voices who want to take you through doors, who their primary concern is not you. It's making themselves look good. So there's another thing, right? We talked about wool, but then the other thing is what? It's meat. Well, that one's a little weird. I don't think that, the voices in your life want to cannibalize you. I don't think that's the point. But here's how you know a thief and a robber and a voice in your life that's not one you should trust. One is when they really are trying to lead you so they can look better. Another person is trying to lead you to fulfill a base desire within them. When you get really hungry, what do? When you get really thirsty, you're like, oh, get it. Like, so here's the deal. Some people have voices in your life. And there are doors that they're inviting you into when literally, and I'm just going to be honest, some of you guys and girls in the room, let me put it like this. There's a base desire that a guy's using you for his own good. Fellas, listen, we're not going to do the shame thing. We'll get rid of that later. But I'm just being honest. There are some people in this room and in your lives that are saying that are literally treating you like a piece of meat. And it's because they need somebody to act on their physical desires and this hunger because they're so thirsty. Like they're like. And here's the deal. Girls, you're following them. And fellas, some of you right now, you're dating someone or maybe with a friend group or where literally the base need is this person is just lonely. They don't really care about you, but they're using you They're using you to just make sure that they're never alone. They don't really care about you. And I'm not trying to be mean, and I'm just saying those are the thieves and robbers. Because the beauty is then there's another group of people, and Jesus talks about this people too. Some people, I always hear this line all the time. It's not that everybody's against you. It's just that most people are only for themselves. And so here's the thing. There are these voices, brother, sister, of people in your life, man. And I'm just, you know it. You shouldn't be trusting this with them. But he says, listen, there's some people that are out for themselves, but there's another group of people. There's another group of people, and he calls them the hired hands. Well, what's a hired hand? Well, a hired hand, and it's somebody who's apparently not good or bad. Like these people are out for themselves. A hired hand is different. A hired hand, literally just like by definition, either isn't strong enough when something comes along or doesn't care enough about you. They care a little about you. There's some voices. I just want to be real clear. There are some voices in your life. There are some doors that are opening in some directions that you're headed. And the people on the other side, the people that are leading you, you're giving so much of yourself to. And here's the deal. They really, at the end of the day, care, like if push comes to shove, they care about you. But they don't care that much about you. And on top of that, some people, and it's the hired hand, he says, okay, here's the deal. When the wolves come, the guy bails. Well, why is that? Well, some of them, it may be because he doesn't care about you. It may be because he's just not strong enough to handle protecting you. He can't take care of you. And so, Matt, where are you going with this? Here's what I'm saying. I don't know that there is a more dynamic season of your life where doors are opening and voices are calling than right now in your life. And in the midst of that, I think Jesus would say, hey, can we call a timeout real fast? And I just want to do this. Can we call a timeout real fast? Because I'm just here to tell you where that door leads. Y'all, you don't want to go. And you can't trust them. So let's get real fast. So what are you talking about, Matt? Like what doors and what can't we trust? Well, so let's back up. So some of you have opened doors you know you shouldn't have opened. Fellas, and not just fellas, a lot of girls, a lot of people in the room, open the door of pornography. Why? Let's just be real for a second. Because over on this side, you were like, because I want to see, I want to experience, I'm curious. And so the problem is you opened a door, you listened to a voice of somebody saying it's not a big deal, or they gave you access or something. Somebody opened a door for you. You walk through that door, and on the other side of that door, you're recognizing, I wish I never would have got here. I don't know how to get back. I don't know. Some of you, some of you have friend groups right now. That listen, you made some decisions to get into this friend group right now. And right now, you're with a group of people right now that you know you need to make a change. Tonight, you're going to have an opportunity to clean slate, run to Jesus. We'll get to that. But even right now, it's so hard for you to have that in your mind that you can actually do it. Because what happened was there was this door open where you decided when you walked through the door, you didn't mean to make this decision, but when you made this decision to hang out with this friend group, and you made this decision to start walking down these doors, and you made this decision to start being mean to everybody you know, and you made this decision to start cutting people down and start acting like that, and start being the sexual joke guy, and start being the girl who kind of always tears somebody down and rips somebody apart. You started making these decisions, and now you're stuck in a spot where you're like, listen, I wish I would have never walked through the door, but now I'm through the door, and I've been sucked down, and I don't know that the voice that led me here can get me out of this. How in the world how would I even make a change today? I don't even know what that looks like. And it says, listen, a hired hand, that thing that just kind of, it's like you just kind of tripped into it. Some of you are like that. You're like, I don't know why I'm so locked up. I don't know why I'm so stressed. I don't know why I can't get my life together, and I don't know why I keep falling to these temptations. I just don't know why. And you've just kind of tripped forward, and there's nobody mean in the process. But you've never felt more stuck than you are right now. In the middle of that, and I hope you found yourself in that, in the middle of that, there's Jesus saying, man, now can we talk about me? He says, listen, man, I'm the good shepherd. You know, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Any other shepherd is taking you to a place that you can't trust. But he just says, listen, but I've come that you can have life and have life to the full. So I told you I grew up in an inner city project. I won't give you the whole deal, but one of family members that were in and out of prostitution, most of my family in and out of prison, cops in and out of the house all the time. And some of you know what this is like, some of you don't, it's cool, we'll get there. But all of a sudden, in the middle of this process, my mom, accepted Christ. And my mom was like this bright, shining light, and she really just fell in love with Jesus. She really did. And I watched her walk through that door, and I watched the trusted voice of Jesus that met her every morning for an hour as she just prayed and dug into the Word. I watched her change into this glorious, radiant person that's like my hero and that I just love with my whole heart. And I remember us going to a prayer meeting when my brother got stabbed, and we were praying for him. And I remember walking into this prayer meeting, and I remember them saying, hey, Matt shouldn't, that's my name, Matt is, we've really been praying. We feel like the Lord's wants to get him out of this situation he's in and get into this school where it's like this tiny little Christian school. And my mom's like, man, we just don't have money for that. There's just no way. And so they found a way for this ruddy little kid. And I remember the day that I showed up to that school. And literally, when you've been through a lot, you remember a lot younger. I don't know how that works, but all I remember is I had holes in my jeans. I only had 2 pairs of jeans. I had 2 shirts. And I'm kind of walking into this, kind of like east side, kind of preppy, kind of halfway, these are like the more like pretty like you, I love you. But, I just remember walking up to the door and looking like here's the door. And inside this room was what I wanted. Like I could just look around and I could just tell, oh, these are the kinds of kids that have families. And these kinds of kids, I'd already been around enough church to know, like these are the ones that, like, they know how to pray and they know how to do stuff, and they got stuff figured out. But you don't know what I'm in right now. You don't know how poor I feel and how dumb I feel. My brothers had me smoking weed already by then as a party trick. And in that doorway, as I stood there, there was this voice. Her name was Mrs. Shaw. Mrs. Shaw was in that corner. I literally can see her as clear today as I could then. Because she yelled across the room, she said, Matthew. I'm like, who knows my name? She walked over and she grabbed my hand and she led me through that door. She said, Matthew, we're so excited that you're here. We're so excited that you're here and you are a part of our family and we love you. And she lifted my head and she looked at my eyes. I have 2 different colored eyes. She said, young man, do you have 2 different colored eyes? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, young man, you've been marked by God. God's going to do great things in your life. And he loves you. And he sent you to us for us to raise you and to teach you how to love Jesus. And I walked through the door. And why do I say that? Because I know the doors that are in front of you, man. Like, I'm around young guys all the time. I know that TikTok is like, the way the guys I'm around, they're like, it's pregame for porn, man. And girls, I know the images that you have to try to live up to, and I know the promises that have been made to you, and the promises have been broken, and I'm just telling you, in the midst of all of the things that are in your world right now, I want you to hear something tonight. That there's a good shepherd, man. He loves you. He's laid his life down for you. And I've seen it all. Like, I've sat with the guys who the doors open for them to be the NFL Pro Bowler and the baseball Hall of Famer. And they thought those doors were going to take them somewhere. And I'm just telling you, I've sat at the tables of the ones who kept thinking the voices that everybody else trusts can be trusted. And there's only one. And Jesus says, here's what I need you to know. I'm a good shepherd. I lay my life down for you. I have life for you. I want to speak wisdom into you. I want to give you truth, the kind of true things that maybe right now might even hurt you a little bit to hear, but because I love you, I'll tell you things because I don't want you to be this person 20 years from now, and you've seen them, some of them are your parents. I'm not trying to be judgy. Where they've chased every single thing else and they added a little Jesus and a little bit of this, and all of a sudden they're in a spot that they never intended to be. And he says, listen, if you'll listen to me, I'm a good shepherd. There's a door in front of you. And here's how easy it is. You just got to walk through it. So what's that look like? Well, here's the thing. Like, some of the stuff that I'm saying tonight, you already know, man. Like some of you, I get it. Like some of you, like some of the guys that are in my house right now, I got this guy's Bible study where like half the group is like, they don't know anything about Jesus. I don't know why they're at a Bible study, but whatever. So, but they're there, and we'll just get to this part, and I'm like, you guys all know. And they're like, no, bro, I really don't know. We have to sit there and say, okay, there's a God who made you and who loved you, and he created the universe, and he formed you. And just like Mrs. Shaw walked across the room, when nobody else could see what's inside of you, he saw you before you were mother. You didn't even thought about you before you were a twinkle in your father's eye. He knew you. He knew the mistakes that you were going to make, and he had a way to not just find you, but then even though you are powerless and you are stuck because too many doors have been opened, either by you, some of you have been stuck in abuse, you're not stuck where you're at because of your decisions. Some of you are stuck in the place that you are because of other people's decisions. Somebody did something to you, you know that was not okay. And there's a God who has the power to save you, to ransom you, to bring you back to him, so that you can be with him forever, and so that you can have the kind of life. Man, I got 5 kids right now. I have a life. Our house, man, if I start talking about my life right now, y'all, it is nothing but grace, man. But my wife and I, when we decided to close other doors, and Jesus has been really gracious and kind, y'all, we get to watch. We've literally watched hundreds of people find Jesus through our home and through our lives. And it's the greatest gift ever. Y'all, after everything everybody's selling, I'm just telling you, I've been married for 24 years, and I'm so attracted to my wife, it's unbelievable. That girl, And you know why? Because I decided to trust a good shepherd. He's the one that made you. He's the one that formed you. And even when you were stuck in your sin, you need to hear this. He decided to send his son down to live a perfect life, to live one that we can relate with, that we can get our arms around, so that he can be a God who understands you. Because it's not like he's super far, like he is so accessible to you. And then he willingly laid his life down in a way that nobody else would do for you, not for me, so that you could be with him. Some of you need to hear that tonight. I don't know who that is, but I want you to know tonight you have an opportunity to say to him, you know what, I'm tired of all the other voices. And Jesus, I want to trust you, and I want to walk through the door, and I want to see where you'll take me. Some of you in the room, you know, one of the things that the Scripture says is that Jesus says this really weird thing. He says, I'm the gate, I'm the door. Here's the thing: if you come through me, then you can straight up come into the pasture like eating it all the time. But he says this line. He says, but you'll go in and out. Read it later. It's interesting. You're like, wait, I thought if we just got to Jesus, we'd just be like there all the time. Like it'd be just like, party, like this is awesome. Why would we ever leave? And I think that Jesus knew, and this is where life gets real. Some of you, you've had moments, and this is normal. You need to hear this as normal. You had moments where you walked in, or maybe you went in, you made a decision, you said, God, I want to follow you, I'm all in. Maybe you did it in a moment like this, or in a place like this, or in a youth group like this. And you came in, and you suddenly got access to His grace and access to His power. And you're like, man, that was incredible, that was amazing. But then you went back to your life. And Jesus made you to like keep coming back and like to keep figuring stuff out and to keep figuring out grace, but man, you just stopped coming back to Him. And then you started thinking that your sin was what was keeping you from being in His presence again. And I just need you to note that's just not true. Tonight, some of you made a decision to follow Jesus. And right now, you're in a place you don't want to be. You don't want this callous heart. You don't want this emptiness in your chest. You don't want this. So here's what I'd say to you. So don't receive it, man. Tonight, I need you to know He is a good shepherd. And tonight, some of you that have been running, and it's been a long time since you've really, really been into His presence again. Tonight, you can say to Him, and I'll give you a minute here. Jesus, I need to come through the door. Like, I need you again. So here's what I'm going to do. I could overtalk this. I don't want to be preachy. Can I do this? Can I just give you an opportunity to listen to His voice? Jesus says right here, He says, my sheep know my voice. And here's the thing, you're a sheep. And I think right now what I'm just going to do is I'm going to shut up. Before we get into another song, and before we get back to thinking about a million things, I think that Jesus, the Good Shepherd who so loves you, I think He wants to talk to you. And I think He wants to nudge some of you right now to say, hey, it's time. You've been waiting for that moment to make a decision. Like, let's talk about that right now. So here's what I'm gonna do. Can we do this? I'm gonna count to 3, and I'm just gonna give Him space. I'm gonna pray over you for a second. And I'm just gonna pray that you listen and that you'll hear the shepherd's voice. And that whatever He asks you to do, if you're in the room and you've never this is what this means. You've never put your faith and trust in Jesus in a public way and were baptized. That's a decision. If you haven't done that, then you talk to the shepherd right now. Because I think He's got a door open. I think He's got a voice that's calling. And you can do that right now. Some of you have been running. You haven't had access to His presence and His grace. You're not sure how to change. You thought you should have been strong enough the first time. And right now, you're going to have an opportunity just to hear the shepherd's voice and Him say, no, we don't have to dip you in the water again. You just need to run into my presence and my grace again. Let's do that right now. And you can open up your hands right now and just tell Him, God, I'm sorry. I love you. I want to change. Because the Good Shepherd always hears and the Good Shepherd always speaks. That's who He is. But I'm going to pray over you. And you have an opportunity to hear His voice. Just listen. So, dear Heavenly Father, God, I just pray over my brothers and sisters in this room. God, I just pray that the voice of the one and only shepherd, the good, strong, gracious, kind Jesus that is strong enough for the addictions they're chasing, is strong enough to overcome some of the shame that they're living in, is strong enough and bold enough and kind enough to help them navigate some of the family and friend situations that they've got to go back to. But you are a good shepherd and you don't like where they're stuck and you've watched them be lied to and you have a warrior heart for them. And so even right now, God, I just pray, Speak to your kids. Just tell them what their hearts need to hear. Just listen to him. Whatever he's saying, just listen. Father, I just pray over your family right now. God, I pray, you said that if we would repent, that if we would just change our minds about you, which is to turn off the voices and say, I'm done listening to lies, and to reorient our lives and our minds back to you, and to say, I want to be yours. I want to follow you. I want to walk through the door. I want to step into your promises. I don't want to end up in a place like I see everybody else end up in. You'd think that we'd be wiser and smarter, but God, we're just weak, and we need a shepherd, because on our own we can't figure it out. And so God, you're going to have to cut through this. You're going to have to grab a hold of our hearts, and you're going to have to show us and lead us. But God, we don't have to figure all that out. We just have to respond to your voice. Because some people in the room right now, the best they have is a weak yes. A weak, like, I'm not even sure I can do it, yes. But God, by faith, I just pray that you'd meet them there, that they would repent, that they would turn back to you with their whole hearts, and that they'd walk through the door with the Good Shepherd. And I just pray that in the powerful name of Jesus.